Everyone's always talking about what comes next in the world of animation, but it's hard to focus on what we have right now. Honestly, it feels like we are in the future, and the next era is already here, but there's still a big problem. When Gravity Falls began in 2012 and ended just 4 years later, few people could realize just how much of an impact it would have on Western cartoons. Many crew members behind Dipper and Mabel's adventures would move on to other shows that feel similar in tone. Anyway, Gravity Falls managed to unite a ton of animation fans and always got them talking, theorizing about what would happen in each episode. That was just the nature of the show. It felt like an absolute behemoth while it was airing, and for good reason too. Still, everything has to come to an end at some point in time, and people had to move on. There were other massive shows in the previous era like Adventure Time or Steven Universe, which would craft lore-heavy worlds that would shatter people's expectations for the better. Fast forward to modern day 2020, and a lot of the big names are gone. So with us being in the brand new animation era literally right now, what's the big problem? Well, it's that there's no single cartoon that everyone's talking about, and a bunch of shows are mostly flying under the radar from a mainstream audience. Let's take a deeper look into some currently airing cartoons that don't get nearly as much attention as they should, and let's figure out why they're not as popular. Amphibia! Created by Matt Brawley, a guy who played an important role in Gravity Falls, this show is where he took everything he learned there to make something new. Anne Boon Choi finds herself trapped in a strange frog world, and she gets her own family as they go on crazy adventures. Of course, there's storylines and greater mysteries about the fantastical frog land, but for the most part, season 1 was Monster of the Week. There weren't many instances of an overarching mystery, though that's going to be expanded upon during season 2. Amphibia is a great cartoon, don't get me wrong, but people just aren't talking about it. Most videos surrounding it on YouTube underperform and don't get much attention, while the TV ratings aren't necessarily the best either. Seriously, why aren't people giving Amphibia the love it deserves? If I had to throw in my own 2 cents, I'd probably say the schedule Disney decided to go with. Back when the first season was airing in summer of last year, they'd release episodes to audiences lightning fast in a bomb format. It only took about a month for everything to go public, and that was a very intentional marketing strategy. They wanted all the episodes out there so people could watch digitally, but the sad truth is that this is not the best idea for story-driven cartoons. You have almost no time to make theories or talk about it online before the next episode airs, and storylines are wrapped up in the blink of an eye. Just to give you some perspective, Gravity Falls took more than a full year to air its first season, which by the way, was the same length of episodes as Amphibia. That may be a little too long, but it still allowed new people to discover the show while it was airing new episodes. They hopped on board the hype train and eventually joined the fandom of one of the biggest names in animation. The same thing couldn't happen with Amphibia. It just came and went like that, while people didn't really talk about it. Basically what I'm trying to say here is, if you haven't seen this show or don't know it exists, please try watching.
She's brave, she's smart, and most of all, she's not gonna be pushed around by a bully like you!
If we're talking about shows in the bomb format, it's probably best to go with Infinity Train next. You probably know about it. I mean, it was fans of the 2016 pilot that actually allowed this to become a full series at all. Enough people gave their support and Cartoon Network said, "Ba-bam, you just got greenlit." We managed to see 2 completely separate stories, and it's safe to say that this was different than your typical cartoon. Because of it being an anthology series, we got to follow a new protagonist and cast of characters for each season, which was really refreshing. From the beginning, it was clear to tell that Infinity Train was amazing, and that's no surprise. It has crew members from Cartoon Network Classics, so of course there'd be the same love here. The only problem is that Infinity Train isn't a heavily discussed series. There weren't many episodes made, and all of them were aired in a bomb format, so they quickly ran out of content. There's a small fandom, of course, but nowhere near the same size as animation giants of the past. The entire fate of this show is actually dependent on the fandom too. Just head on over to the Twitter account for series creator Owen Dennis, and he lays down the facts. With the AT&T Warner merger, it's especially important over the next few months to show the energy behind the show. We have new bosses, new people looking at the data of who buys what, who watches what, etc. I want more Infinity Train, but they need to see that you want it. So I just had a meeting. When HBO Max comes out on the 27th, it's important that you watch books 1 and 2 of Infinity Train on it. Just saying. Infinity Train won't be getting much more content unless there's actual fans who demand it, and that's just how these shows go. Based on what I've been seeing on YouTube and Twitter, mainstream audiences aren't super aware of the show, but I'm hoping that can change. Let's take a break from these underrated shows and talk about Rick and Morty. It's gonna be really hard to find anyone who doesn't know these guys. An awkward kid and his grandpa go on sci-fi adventures with incredible concepts and meta humor. The show has had its ups and downs, but most agree that it offers something completely new to the world of animation, while also sprinkling in some story arcs for fans to theorize. Why am I talking about this, you may ask? Because it's one of the biggest cartoons out there right now, one that has the attention of mainstream audiences and then some. Thanks to the 70 episode order, Rick and Morty will be sticking around for many more years to come, but what does this show have that the others I talked about don't? Well, for one thing, the episodes have a long gap between them. New episodes air weekly, of course, but the gap between seasons is so long, and new people can join in these breaks. Also, an established audience has been formed thanks to the years it's been currently airing. Now, will Infinity Train or Amphibia ever grow to the size of Rick and Morty? No, definitely not. But this still gives us a good idea of what works for mainstream audiences. Maybe if there's no bomb format anymore, people would figure out some of the other shows, you know, actually exist. I can't talk about the new animation era without mentioning The Owl House. It comes from Dana Terrace, who, surprise, surprise, also had a role on Gravity Falls. This follows the story of Luce, who ends up in a strange realm with its own mysterious origins and characters. New episodes were aired every week. Finally! I think out of all the up-and-coming cartoons, this has the most potential to rise above the rest, at least in terms of popularity. Season 1 has already been establishing crazy mysteries each and every episode, which promises payoff at some point in the future. People have gone online to talk about what comes next, and the fandom is slowly but surely growing. While the videos don't get nearly as many views as expected for a big theory-driven show, that should probably change when more episodes are airing. Adventure Time is easily one of the most important cartoons we've ever gotten on Cartoon Network. Not only did it pave the path for story-driven shows of the future, but many who worked on it would move to big things. At one point, this had an absolutely massive fandom, but the show came to an end in 2018. Fear not, though, because Distant Lands is here, giving us brand new stories in the same world. It's gonna take some time to grow a real fan base, but the very name of Adventure Time should hopefully bring most people back. As of right now, it's not getting a whole lot of discussion, but who knows? Maybe the limitation of it being on HBO Max will steer people away, especially when the previous platform was Cartoon Network, which was more widely available. So after talking about some of these names in the new era of animation, these shows need more attention. Watch them, tell your friends, do whatever you can to make sure people know. A cartoon can't be much without audiences, and right now there are very few big names that everyone knows, other than something like Rick and Morty, of course. I really hope times change and more people give these shows a chance, since they definitely deserve your time. But what do you think of this new era? And which cartoons do you plan on following the most? Let's talk in the comments. But anyway, that's all for this video. Subscribe for more awesome cartoon videos. Give a thumbs up and comment below, let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.